If someone told you that the best investing strategy required no skill, barely any effort, and rewards you the most for doing nothing, would you believe them? Well, that's the investing strategy that has quietly made millions of people very wealthy indeed. It's not flashy, it's not trendy, but it definitely has worked. Warren Buffett has long said that most people would be better off just buying an S&P fund and continuing to invest, especially when times are rough. But is it the right approach to take? So let's break it down. I'll show you exactly how this approach works in the market today, the hidden strengths people overlook, and some extra things you'll want to keep on mind if you're thinking about going all in with this. I'm also going to show you how this compares to investing just into an oil world and how this links into my approach and exactly what I'm doing. There'll also be a few tweaks to show you how you can actually make this approach even better. So if you'd have invested £300 per month into the S&P 500 30 years ago and kept that up, you would now be sitting on £580,000. That's assuming a conservative 8% return, and the crazy part about it is most of those returns were made in the last 8 years. That's the magic of compounding. The longer that you stay invested, the more that time works for you. Most people get this wrong, not because they pick bad investments, because they pull out, because they get scared. Patience, not prediction, is what wins in the long term. What is the S&P 500? So it's a broad index of 500 of the biggest companies in the US, naturally. Now, you don't just get there for being big. You need liquidity, you need sustainability metrics in place, you need to be profitable, obviously that's important, and you need a broad set of ownership. It's kind of an elite club of the best companies in the US, and it currently makes up 80% of the US market. That, of course, therefore means that investing into the S&P 500 gives you 80% exposure into the US market. One of the best things about an S&P 500, it is completely self-cleansing. That means that new good companies come in as they get promoted into it, just like a football league, and bad ones get relegated. It is self-cleansing. It does all of the work for you in the background, admin free. If you look just 20 years back, the S&P 500 consisted in the top 5 companies of the likes of Exxon, Ford, General Electric. Now, those are nowhere to be seen in the top 10, never mind the top 5 anymore. The index is constantly being updated. You don't have to guess what the next big thing is going to be. It happens for you automatically in the background. If a business underperforms, it gets cut. No emotional attachment, no discussion about it. It gets taken out. And the next biggest and best companies get added in. That way, you're always invested into the winners. Since 1984, the S&P 500 has returned an average annual return of 10.4% per year. That's around about 7 to 8% after inflation. And don't forget, so that's over 40 years worth of data. Simply put, if you'd put £10,000 in 1984, you'd be sat on £950,000 right now. That's around £600,000 if you hadn't reinvested the dividends. And that is why it's so important to reinvest dividends when you're invested into funds. And since 1926, it's still included a 10% return. That's despite the Great Depression, wars, massive inflation, pandemics, pumpkin-headed Egypts being in charge. Whatever happens, it has still returned on average 10% for nearly 100 years. And it really is that simple. S&P Dow research has shown that 85% of active fund managers have underperformed the market over the course of the last 10 years. That's not including their fees. So if you take into consideration their fees as well, it's even worse. This is massive teams of analysts and research experts poring over the data for hours a day in multi-billion-pound companies, and they still can't beat the index. Trying to beat the market is, of course, an exciting game, but history shows it is one that you will probably lose at. So simple strategies are easy to stick to, and that's half the battle. If you know you're holding the top 500 companies in the biggest economy in the world, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. Knowing the fact that it is self-cleansing, knowing the fact that the growth rate we have seen before, kind of takes some of that guesswork away. And while the average dividend yield has historically been small, between 1% and 2%, that really does compound over the years, as per that example before. One of the things you need to watch out for, of course, if you're buying in the UK, is you need to consider the impact of FX, foreign exchange. Now, in any given point, you could be worse off or you could be better off. But over the course of an investing career, I'm talking decades, it kind of levels the field a bit. I don't tend to worry too much about FX fees because I know in the long term, it'll kind of balance itself out. Now, you can hedge that risk in the UK with certain ETFs, but it adds complexity. And in reality, most people don't do that anyway. I personally don't. So how does the S&P 500 stack up against a global fund, for example? So over the course of the last 15 years, the S&P 500 has returned on average 14%. So that is versus a global fund that has returned 9%. That's a 5% increase per year over 15 years. That is absolutely massive. But it isn't always the case, and it hasn't always been the case. So in the 2000s, for example, an all-world fund would have significantly beaten the S&P 500. And don't forget, whilst the S&P 500 makes up nearly 62% of the globe right now in terms of funds, it only makes up 25% in terms of GDP. And that imbalance kind of points to that there might be more opportunity elsewhere outside of the S&P 500. And that's personally why I invest into the S&P 500 as well as a global index fund. So I have the majority of my cash into an all-world fund. I use FWRG from Invesco, but my second largest holding is the S&P 500 because I do believe it still has room to grow. I do believe that we will still get good returns in the S&P 500 over the long term. But the key is actually getting started. And this is where most people don't even bother. This is where most people get it wrong. Less than 6% of people in the UK, for example, have stocks and shares ISA. Now, the majority of people are invested into the market and probably into the S&P 500 through their pension, but most don't start in their own right. You don't necessarily need to pick the perfect fund today. I see a lot of this, people trying to work out what is absolutely the cheapest S&P 500, for example, what has got the best track record. In reality, the average S&P 500 tracks really closely to the index anyway. You just need to remove some of that because it can sometimes hold you back from taking that first step, and just make a decision and stick with it. And if you do want to do that, I use Trading 2 and 2. There's a link in my bio. If you use that and deposit £1, you can get a free fractional share as a result of doing so. I will also, in the interest of transparency, there's no platform fees whatsoever, and it is where I hold the majority of my wealth, pretty much all of it, to be honest with you. I have done portfolio updates you can look over on my channel. Investing isn't about being perfect. Don't let great get in the way of good. It is about being consistent. And whilst the S&P 500 might not be perfect, it is consistent, and that's why it's the foundation of many people's portfolios, including mine. Now, there is no guarantee, of course, that we're going to continue to see 9, 10, 11% growth over the course of the next few years. But I, as I said before, have a high level of confidence that we will see some growth, and I am comfortable to hold it because my approach is consistency and long term. It's important that we finish on a joke, as we always do. So why didn't the actor who played the Tin Man want to make a Wizard of Oz sequel? He was feeling rusty. Now you're in luck today because I've got 2 because I'm a little bit behind. Apologies for this. A giraffe and an ostrich had a 100-meter race. It was neck and neck right until the end. Okay, listen, if you want to see the rest of my portfolio and what it looks like, have a look at this video here. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Any questions, let me know.
I think it's the same thing that makes most sense practically all of the time, and that is to consistently buy an S&P 500 low-cost index fund. Keep buying it through thick and thin, and especially through thin, because the temptation gets, when you see bad headlines in newspapers, maybe to say, well, maybe I should skip a year or something. Just keep buying it. American business is going to do fine over time. So you know the investment universe is going to do very well. The Dow Jones Industrial Average went from 66 to 11,497 in 1 century, and then since that century has ended, it's more or less doubled again. American business is going to do well. The trick is not to pick the right company; it's to be, because most people aren't equipped to do that, and plenty of times I make mistakes on that. The trick is to essentially buy all the big companies through the S&P 500.